Let's see. What makes a great pizza? That's an interesting question, submitted, I think, by one of our own. Why don't we start with Gabe? You started us off with the introductions. Give us your raw and unfiltered opinion on pizzas.
Well, first of all, pineapple on pizza is a tragedy. No one should ever do that, ever. Never put pineapple on pizza. And what makes a great pizza? I feel like it really comes down to the dough. The dough is really what matters for pizza. The cheese, the sauce, the pepperoni, or whatever else you put on top, not pineapple. The dough is what really changes it. So good dough will make good pizza. Am I answering your second question too?
That's an excellent answer. Would anyone else, any of the other mentors, like to chime in if they have especially strong?
I think, Jeremy, I think the company makes the pizza great. So if you are with a great company, and then your pizza will taste great no matter what. That's my input. Something.
That's very subjective, though, because she likes one place, I like another place. I think that what makes the pizza is cheese. If you can take a ruler and measure how much cheese is on there, that's a good pizza.
I like really thin crust with little cheese and no meat and no pineapple.
Oh. and I'm the opposite of Karen, actually. I like thick crust. I like different sauces too, other than tomato. Like if they do barbecue or something different. I love pineapple in my stuff, but anyway, so it's complete opposite. Jeremy, I guess Joyce somehow at afternoon, after she saw your questions, decided to answer the question. Do you mind if I play her response? I haven't heard it. She just sent me all these tapes.
On the pizza question. Yeah.
Okay, I will try it. Here it goes.
What makes a great pizza is really the dough and the bread. So if the dough is fresh and soft in the center and yet crusty on the outside, when you bite in, it just kind of like oozes into your teeth. That makes it doesn't matter what topping you have on the pizza, as long as the dough is good, it's a perfect pizza to me.
Yeah, that's quite a plethora of diverse answers. I like them all. Very diverse opinions, especially with Lester and Karen having almost the opposites. But hey, that's part of church life. You're gonna run into people with very different opinions. You may end up marrying one of them, apparently too. So thank you all for your great answers. And as always, if you have a particular, for mentors, if you have a particular feeling to speak out on an issue, and the questions are definitely going to be more important than just pizza choices, please feel free to just interrupt me if you so feel. Okay, so let's get to know all of you a little bit better as well. I think one of the good questions that was submitted, and one that I've asked my parents even, and I think it's good to hear from those who are older and wiser. If you could go back in time and speak to your early 20s self, what would you say? What maybe one piece of advice would you give to better direct your path? And anyone can jump in once you have an answer.
I think Gabe's too young for this question. Yeah. Anyway, Lester, want to start us off? Or maybe he's still thinking.
Okay, if I were to, three things come to mind. One is life goes quickly. It's shockingly how time has gone by, how many years have been married, how, here I have kids that left college and working. Time has really gone by quickly. I never thought it would have gone this quickly. Another thing I would have told myself in the 20s is really trust the advice of some of those who've gone before you. I especially those that you respect, and I have to really say that, they really have experienced some things that are really, and they're really trying to keep you from making the same mistakes. I remember personally, take it personally, my mom, I was raised by a single mom pretty much my life. There are so many gals she discouraged me from dating, but did I listen? No, I didn't. I always knew better, I'm sure. But honestly, she was right. I wish she was here to hear it. But I hope I said that a few times in my older life that she was right. But in hindsight, she was correct in a lot of things. Thankfully, she loved Joyce, so she was spot on that one. Probably a third thing is that God has a wonderful plan for you. I would have told myself in my 20s, and it may surprise you. It may not be anything you had planned. I never heard of Walnut, where I live now. I didn't imagine I was going to have my 3 kids or my wife, who she is. She probably was nothing that I had thought of. The job that I'm holding now, or held for the last 20 years, was nothing I had even dreamt of. And so these were not my plans in my 20s. And it's wonderful when you rely on God, and He can surprise you in ways that you didn't plan. And that's the neat thing about it. So maybe those are probably some of the things I'd hit upon.
I think I agree with Lester on a lot of that. Appreciate the people who are in your life right now, because you don't know when God is going to call them home. And I know I've had times in which I was frustrated with my parents or my grandparents. Well, now that they've already all passed on, I can't go back and say thank you for all the years of putting up with me. But I think another thing is your life is going to be very cyclical. And I see that it's cyclical because of one big reason. How much time are you spending with God? In those low times in my life, I can see that I was not in tune with God. And in the high times, I was. And I can see that in those low times, I was delving in things I shouldn't be delving into. And in those high times, I was focused on God, fellowship, trying to uplift my brothers and sisters. You want to find joy in your life, it's not going to be found in a job. It's not going to be found in driving a German car or anything like that. It's going to be in the relationships that you maintain. And the biggest one is going to be your relationship with God.
I agree to everything that they said. The only thing is, I really appreciate I have mentors in my life, and I would tell myself to try everything, fail back. Don't afraid that you may make mistakes or you may fail at whatever you try. Have a go at it.
Yeah, I think I agree with all you have shared. I think that in my early 20s, I did not have a community like you guys do now with the brothers and sisters, and that's one thing I would definitely would have strived for if I had opportunities in my early 20s. And yeah, so I think that I just have just such a precious thoughts that you have someone who can walk with you, whether it's your mentors or people that your peers that share the same faith and same value with you, and same love for Jesus with you. And that's just so much more. I mean, the journey just becomes so much more enjoyable and yeah, like I said, precious. So yeah, I wish I had those experiences, but now I do, because I have you guys in this community. So yeah, it's been a blessing. So
One other little caveat: people will always fail you. No matter how good your relationship with people are, we're only human. We will make mistakes. We will let each other down at some point, sometimes really badly. God will never let you down. That's the thing that I've really seen, and it's been consistent in the last a couple of decades of my life.
Gabe, did you have any thoughts? You're definitely not too young to answer the question.
Other than like investing in Tesla or something like that. No, I guess for this question, thinking is most like guys, like, what do you do in your 20s while maybe for most of us we're still single? I I guess I'll just think of one practical thing. Explore missions. Like, you don't get that much time to do short-term mission trips when you get married and you start a family. At least you won't until your kids grow up a little bit and you can take them on your trips with you. And so I say take some time to do that while you still have the ability to kind of move around and be a little bit flexible with your schedule, and explore what the mission field looks like. So I think that that's something that can really help you grow in your faith if you want to see how God is working outside of your own Christian bubble that you're in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you all for your answers. I think there's already a lot of insight there, and especially the points on being able to listen to the wisdom of the elders or to mentors. I'm glad that to say we are seeking to do that even right now. So we're here to learn from those. So carrying on with that sort of theme though of marriage and a family, I think this is an interesting question for everyone who that you're all married. What is something that you learned about your spouse recently that you didn't know before? I'll go ahead and paste the question also in chat so that people can follow along. It can be anything. It can be something small. It can be something big.
I can go with this one. I recently found out my husband actually had braces when he was a teenager. I did not know that until we put braces on our son. My son is 10 years old. We've been married for 15 years, dated 9. So I never know. And I asked him, how come you don't tell me? And he said, well, you never ask.
Thanks, Karen. That's a great example. It's just, oh, you've always had good teeth.
One thing that Alice and I were talking about the other day, and it never really came up as much, or I never picked up on it, that she actually enjoys hiking. And when we were talking about, oh, what we'd like to do, she says, I do like hiking. I said, oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
Well, that shouldn't be a surprise to you all. But if you pay attention to his slide of introduction, he enjoys good movies, but apparently you cannot really enjoy a good movie when you were hiking. Well, maybe now you can, but you still need to pay attention to the road. But yeah, that's one thing that yeah, I really enjoy hiking. If I can hike with some of the young ladies, we would have time. One thing I discovered about Ray, actually, you know what? I always find something new about this guy. It's just interesting. He never stopped to just like I was stopped to surprise me, So so I think that he's always the more romantic, between the two of us. And I know that he always sent me flowers on our anniversary, on my birthday. So up to some point, I told him, you know what?
Hint, guys, that really does go a long way.
Well, okay, let me finish. I said, okay. I said, so after a few years, I said, you know what though? Let's not waste the money, because I know that you love me. I know that you're gonna always be sweet to me. And then, well, besides, I'm gonna be the only one that throw the withered flowers away. So I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about the flowers, and just save up the money. And anyway, but he will find different way to surprise me. He never in the cards, he always writes me cards, and just the way that he expressed his thoughts in writing, it just, every time when I read those cards, is never the same as the one that he is written to me before. So yeah, so as you can see, when you get older, you're supposed to be wiser and better in communicating your words in words. So I appreciate that about Ray, and I can't wait to read more cards from him. So
Yeah, I thought that this could be a fun one because, actually after all these many years of just have known each other, I think we pretty much, not too much surprises. It's funny, she just said yesterday, she goes, her mom just told her for the first time that her mom couldn't stand her first boyfriend. And she goes, I never heard my mom say this to me. Why the mom tells me 40 years later, she never said this to me back when I was in high school or college, whatever it was, of how she couldn't stand him. But anyway, she just found this out this week anyway. But I don't think that's what she would have shared. For me, it's funny. What I find out something new about Joyce is because it's more like when you go into like a new situation. Back, in college when I was in your age, we used to have these, instead of icebreakers, they called them these serendipity moments, and they used those kind of words back in those days where, you have a new situation and you'll find something randomly new or happy about, a person or something beneficial. Anyway, so when things come up in our lives, I think that's when we learn something new. For example, when we got our first dog, which was Cinnamon, I think you saw her in the picture. She's an English Shepherd. And for some reason, both my wife and I realized that we enjoyed agility trials for our dog. That's something we would have never dreamt of, we never heard of before then. But somehow we went to agility trials and looked up for clubs and classes, and bought her little, agility stuff in the backyard, those little tunnels and poles and hurdles you can jump over and things like that. So that was something I didn't think she'd enjoy. It was funny. Recently, she's been talking to our fish, and it's really strange. And when I say fish, I mean not the kind you eat, I like raising aquarium fish. I haven't done it as much but last 10 years gotten more into it. And I'm more into goldfish and arandas, the larger ones, because my grandfather got me into this when I was younger. So he was huge into it. He had a pond and he'd give us arandas for our home. But she's the type who talks to them, and she'll yell at them for not sharing food or picking on each other, or she taps on the glass to get their attention to talk. Usually that drives them away. They can't stand the noise, but they come to her. I don't know why. So they recognize her. So something very strange. So, but seriously, I think one of the things I've seen over the pandemic is she's probably, of our whole family, the most consistent in exercise and going to classes. She'll take things to the highest level. She'll take yoga and go to the hot hit ones, where they raise your room temperature to 100 and something, and you go out for 45 minutes, so you're dying. Not this yoga where you're just sitting around doing these poses, but sweating like crazy, or she'll do stretches and handstands in the house in the middle of nowhere. So she's taken exercise to a higher level than all the rest of us. So it's funny, with all of us at home, you'd think we're more athletic than her, but she goes all out there. So that's probably some things I figured out over the last few months.
I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to this question, so we'll just move along.
Okay, thanks. Good. Still very in the honeymoon stage, huh?
Maybe I just need to learn from these older folks on how to observe better and learn better.
Well, how many months you've been married? Almost not a year yet, right?
It's not been a year yet. It's about like 8 months.
8 months.
You'll start observing when you finish your MDiv.
Oh, man.
Good point.
That's really awesome. I think it's always cool to see, marriage is always an ongoing process, right? There's always more to learn about the other person. I think that's really a sweet part of it. Staying on that sort of topic, but maybe moving back chronologically a little bit. Next question is, how did God help you to stay happy or content when you were single? And this can also apply to when you were maybe dating or not yet married, or it can apply to when you weren't dating at all. So.
Okay, so I think I understand where this is coming from, because I remember out of all my group of friends and everything like that, I was the only one. I was always the odd guy out. Everybody was dating somebody or they were seeing somebody, and I didn't have any relationship with a girl apart from your typical just regular friendships. And I wanted one very badly, and no matter how much I would do to try to impress a girl, it never really amounted to anything. What a person should do, leave it all in God's hands. Because I remember this very, very vividly. It was after fellowship one time, and the speaker was speaking about trusting in God. And the icebreaker was basically, you're paired up with another person. One person is blindfolded, and the person who is not blindfolded verbally guides the blindfolded person on where to go. So, we did that. And then the speaker said, basically said that how you reacted while you're blindfolded is pretty much how you trust God. I was very resistant. I was very apprehensive. And I realized that I was that way towards God as well.
Mhm.
And then I asked myself, "Well, what is one thing that I am really resistant to letting God handle?" And then the whole thing with relationships came up. And I remember this was roughly around this time of year, February. And I remember I was praying in my room before I went to sleep that night. I said, God, I'm tired of just dealing with this. Take it away. Please just, you take care of it. I'm not going to try to have any kind of huge expectations or anything like that. I am just going to go with whatever, with how you're going to lead me. 3 months later, Alice and I started dating. So it's not going to be like that for everybody. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I do have to say, whenever I or Alice and I, as a couple, have given up something to God, just let Him take care of it. It happens.
He does care.
I mean, in
Mhm.
his right timing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just the same scenario, the waiting on God. It happened again after we got married, and we've been trying to have a child, and it took us what 2.5 years, and on our own effort, nothing ever happened. We even went through all the physical checkup and everything that the doctor said, well, you both are fine and normal, are able. So, and then my OB doctor was Christian, so he said, you know what, just really give it to the Lord. So we both just, okay, you know what? And also to a point where we accept the fact that God might not, want us to be parents, having our own biological child
Children.
or children. But once we just, release our thought to the Lord, and after 6 months or something like that, we found out that, yeah, we conceived our firstborn. So God has really proven himself to be so faithful to us. I mean, at least for Ray and my experience, that when we decide to let it go and leave it in God's hand, not saying that we just, let him take care of it, that we don't do anything on our own, but we still pray, we still focus on, his guidance and trusting while we were waiting for him, for his will to be done. We still, do our part, and God just worked in his time, in his way. So yeah, I think the only way that you can find contentment in your current situation or current life circumstances is that you will fully trust God. That's the only way you're going to have that contentment. Yeah. So thank you.
I guess I can answer. I mean, I'll probably share a little bit. I'll share more about my life and what I went through in singleness during my singleness sermon. That will be coming up in the series. But just a few thoughts right now. I think with this question, how did God help you stay happy when were single, or when you are single? I think first of all is actually to be honest about your sadness and your brokenness about it. It's okay to feel lonely because you don't have a spouse, because it's good to desire one. And so I think to be honest about that, to be honest about that with God and with people, and to know that it is indeed hard. It's not saying we can just do something and suddenly we'll be happy and everything will be easy in our singleness. But it's to remember that those emotions are real and those struggles are real. But in the midst of that is to also know that when you're feeling sad and lonely, you can still feel joyful. And that's a theological, spiritual reality, that you can still feel joyful even in the midst of hardships and really hard times, especially if your emotions of loneliness are really overtaking you. And so I just want to be, encouraging that sense, that if you are, indeed struggling with being happy in your singleness, like that's okay. Cry out to God during those times. And yeah, and then I think one other thing I did, and I could share more about my experience going through that before I was married. But I remember just telling myself to remember that it's better to give than to receive, and that meant I went out a lot and I just really trying to invest in people, whether they're my married friends or my single friends, and really just trying to invest my time to people, and really invest my time to the church family in that way. Especially since my married friends, they're not going to remember to call me, so I'm just going to text them and see if they're free, and just really just take the opportunity to do that and stay connected.
I guess for me, I dated a lot in my 20s, and but I think God has a plan for me during all that time. Is I was always busy. I'm always busy at college or serving or at work. So I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of different communities of friends, and that's always keep me busy. So I guess my focus wasn't on my singleness ever. It was more focusing on what can I do next. What is some of the things that needed to serve in that particular community. To me, I think that's more important. And I think it was God that guiding me all this time. That's why I wasn't really aware that the singleness or who is married or who is not, or, I'm kind of like really busy. If someone is getting married, it's something that is just on my calendar that I attend. So to me, I think that was really helpful. And I think it's God's training me all this time is focusing on him, focusing on his people and the community that we're in.
I think if Joyce were here, she'd agree. We don't have great advice in this area. Both of us were active in our 20s, and I think both of us really enjoyed our single lives and had fun. In fact, sometimes you'd ask her, she'll say she had more fun there than being married, but it's okay. But looking back, though, there was neither of us, I guess, I agree with Karen. We were both very busy. We both had a lot of activities. We both had a lot of friends. We both just had active lives and were involved. And so it really wasn't something that I could ever say that it was an unhappiness looking back. Maybe it's because the time, when I got married, we got married even a little bit before a lot of our friends anyway, too. So maybe our timing was different than others. So unfortunately, I can't add much of that except to really enjoy the time you have, the independence, to embrace the things you can do. It's a time of life you're not going to get back, and just enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you all. I think that's helpful words of wisdom, especially for a lot of us who are not yet married and in that waiting stage or thinking stage. I think that's a really helpful path to follow. Kind of on that same line, maybe hitting that same nerve of trying to stay content or doing things right. The next question is about common mistakes or room for growth that you see in couples who are dating. So we're in that stage, but perhaps have some issues. This can be from personal experience, or this can be just from your experience from seeing others going ahead and dating. So thoughts on that? I guess we'll have to do this the old-fashioned way and start calling on people. Let's go with.
Someone else. Sorry, I would say because we started last time, so we should have someone else start first. Karen, I'm sorry. I'm playing MC now, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Dating, I think it's fun. Keep your open mind. I heard sometimes some people reflect back to me. I think they take it too seriously on the first 2 dates. Get to know that person. Talk to them. Be a listener. Just enjoy that moment to be single and dating different person, listening to the conversation. You actually grow yourself too. I think that is one of the biggest thing I have for this question.
I have to second what Karen said about the seriousness. And I'm not saying you shouldn't seriously think about the people you date, but some people are like planning the wedding on the second date, and I just don't get it. So, I was in college. I mean, I'd go to football games with somebody or go to parties with someone else, and it you had certain friends you could have fun with and know them. And I thought the neatest thing was the fact that you can learn more about different people. I thought that was fun. But anyway, one thing also is I wouldn't, as a couple, you can't focus on other couples so much too. Focus about yourselves. You know, what's unique about you guys as an individual. What brought you two together? Sometimes, you know, just like all of us compare, you know, parents compare their children to others, and people compare their marriages, and you guys compare your jobs and salaries and things you do. But, you know, you have to look at you guys unique as a couple. Are you guys growing and enjoying in the things you're doing together? You know, and I would also ask, are you growing in other areas too? Not just yourselves. Are you growing in the way you guys relate to friends, to each other's families? Are you growing spiritually together? Are you guys growing in knowledge together? So it's nice when you see those different areas too. So that's just some thoughts. But just a reminder that the couples are unique. And ones I see that sometimes date so long, sometimes I see too much discontentment. Joyce and I joke, they said they sometimes look like an old married couple when they're, you know, been dating too long. And, you know, you don't want to be that. You want to keep it fresh and a growing time for you guys. So Alice Ray.
Okay.
I think somewhat related to that is that also pay attention to the other relationships. I mean, you kind of touched on that already, Lester. Don't ignore your other existing relationships. I mean, when you're married, yes, your primary ministry is going to be your spouse and your future family. But at the same time, whether you're dating or you're married, don't ignore the other people that are around you. You don't know what you're experiencing or what you're learning that could really have a good impact on somebody else. I mean, when we were dating, we noticed how some of our other dating friends, they would disappear, and you wonder, did they fall off the face of the earth or something? Because like you'll see them, you'll see them briefly or say hi occasionally, and then you never see or hear from them again until you get a wedding invitation or some sad news on the phone saying, "Oh yeah, we broke up" or something. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, they disappeared. But I wish those people, and also maybe we would take more initiative to try and like get them out and say, "Hey, let's do something together," or "Hey, how you know, just reaching out to people, just maintaining relationships." Because I mean, the world is not centered around you. The world is supposed to be centered around God.
Yeah, I think that's what I think what you all share is really, really great. And especially, I think that just because we're in a relationship and that really make us should, you know, our relationship should be centered around God, you know. I should say God is the center of our relationship. Why do I say that? Because sometimes I do see some dating couples, they get into this I would say a little conflicts is because they sort of take their eyes off of God and they start demanding that support and the love from the other person because they realize that only other person can fully support them and love the way that they want to be loved and supported, and without realizing that actually it can be self-serving and selfish in a way when you feel that way, because you have to look at the situation sometimes that you have to really focus on what God would say about your relationship, you know, in even though, you know, you are doing well together as a dating couple, but how have you been doing recently spiritually on your own as well as together as a couple? How have you really pointed the other person to Christ, you know, in times of trouble or times of, you know, conflicts? How is your walk with God, the time spent with God, you know, being fruitful, you know? And have you idolized your relation, this dating relationship, um, you know, more than God? You know, I think that those are the questions that we have to always constantly ask ourselves. Even after we got married, I think that Ray will agree with me that at times that we will get this little conflict, or I will get mad at him because I feel like, oh yeah, he should be doing this, not me. And
And I can tell when I hear pots and pans being thrown onto the stove instead of nicely put down. And
that's
stuff
right.
like
Yeah.
that. I hear
Just be
cabinet
happy.
doors slamming.
I didn't slam the door.
She did.
But anyway, just be happy you don't live in the same household with us. But anyway, my point is, okay, even just at that moment when you feel so discontent, with your spouse, or in this case, with your dating, a partner, you would just be like, okay, you have to check your own heart first. What caused me to be discontent? What caused me to be, to demand more of her or him? I think that's the first thing that you need to really ask yourself, when you're going to go into the conflict with the other person. Yeah. Thank you. Serious.
Well, my next sermon will be on dating, so that'll be in 2 weeks. But I'll kind of give a quick pointers that I'll probably repeat myself next time as well. First, pursue your boyfriend, girlfriend as a companion or friend, and don't prioritize romance. Prioritize the companionship, because you're forming a companion for life. Romance is based on emotions and feelings, and that comes and goes, and every couple will tell you that. And it's about whether or not you can be in the same room as this person for a long period of time. So build companionship. Second thing I'll say is, do people know you're dating? Like, is it public? Can people actually look at you guys and be like, I can see this is clear. This is not something that's private, not something that's hidden. It's and I'm not saying do like PDA, like that's, we shouldn't have that at church. But but people should know, like it shouldn't be a secret. And so that's when something's like kind of hidden away and secretive, that's when you get a little bit more worried about it. And I guess the last thing to say is, yeah, I think in terms of like, when people are dating, there's a lot of questions going through your head. Is this the right person? And am I supposed to marry this person? And I really think we overthink our situations. And I think that there are times when it just really comes down to whether or not we like to be with this person or not. And again, I'll go more in detail on these kind of pointers, advice that or principles that I have next time. But those are just kind of quick answers for now.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And if I think for whoever's listening, whoever hasn't picked up on it yet, come to the next IT, the next couple of ones, so you can hear our own Gabriel speaking about it directly. But yeah, kind of on that same theme then of dating, we do have a more specific question, so I want to be able to make sure to bring that to light as well. And it kind of concerns online dating. So I'll just paste it in the chat so we can take some time to read it. It concerns someone who may not be interested in dating anyone from their local church, and is seriously considering online dating. So is there any wisdom, any practical wisdom on that approach? And I think this can apply in a lot of situations. It doesn't have to be just there's no one at my church. It could be it's COVID right now, and I wonder how I can maybe start a relationship or maintain a relationship online. So I think those are all aspects that can be answered by this question. Yeah.
Okay, I have absolutely no advice in this area because it wasn't invented in my day. So as you know, I'm aging myself, but I think that's just the reality of it all. Joyce actually had an opinion here, so I'm going to share this. And I'll be honest, you guys, I have not listened to any of her tapes. She sent me all this stuff today. I didn't have time. I had to work today. So you're lucky I even knew where her Google Drive was to play all this stuff. So Jeremy, if you don't mind me taking over one more time here.
Go ahead.
And let's see, it's almost like, those TV shows, what are they going to say? Who knows? So we'll find out together.
Okay, the question is about online dating and some practical wisdom. Well, first of all, I've never used this app before, used any dating apps before, but I have definitely worked with people who have found each other through these dating apps and are very successful. And I work with a lot of these clients because I am a makeup artist. So I sometimes ask and poll them, you know, how did you guys meet? And a lot of them would say, oh, we found each other online. Or, I mean, we met through these dating apps. And so I'm finding it's becoming more and more widely used and acceptable. But I think it's pretty much like a relationship. It's what you put into it is sometimes what you're going to get out of it. And so I suggest that you really spend the time on your profile, your bio, and be honest. Be, you know, I know a lot of us may want to exaggerate areas that you know you're good in, which is fine. But just remember, you know, when you do meet up with that person, if you said you're like, you know, 6 feet tall and you're like 5 feet 9, guess what? You're not going to be able to fool them at that point. Or, you know, if you say your age and you're really not at that age, then yeah, it's all gonna come out. So just really, you know, putting the effort into putting down accurate and honest answers would be my advice. And also, you're going to actually be surprised that you may actually be matched up, even though you say you don't want to, you know, date anybody in your circle of friends or your current connections here at church, or, you know, maybe in your group of friends, but you might actually run into people that you know, or someone you both know. And I guess, you know, we're all separated by, you know, 4 degrees, or what is it, that term? But I think, you know, it is actually a smaller world than you think. So don't be surprised, you know, you might run into someone that you know, and, you know, that could be a sign, you know, and that might be something that you can pray about. But I think when you do start one of these apps, don't sign up for a ton of them. Just do one and give it a you know, real honest effort for, I don't know what the duration, how they work, you know, but, you know, give it a good try for a month or so and see how your results are, and really dedicate to responding. And you know, you might end up actually finding someone that you want to be with. So anyways, yeah, give that a try and let us know how that goes.
You know, it's funny. I hadn't heard this. You know, it just made me think. I said I have no experience, but I remember my brother got into this, you know, to online stuff, and he goes, "I can't find anyone at church. You know, no one at all." So he was very honest with his profile, and he was very serious. And what's the first person they matched him with? This anonymous thing, some girl from his church. So, you know, God knows better, and, you know, he knows the heart correctly. And of course, he didn't go out with her when he said no way. But nevertheless, that was her sharing. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Ray and I will know a couple that, just like as Joyce mentioned, that they also met online, and they actually, God has blessed them, and now they're married with 3 kids. So, you know, I totally agree with what Joyce shared. Definitely be honest when you create your profile on the online dating website, and also, I think that, and also definitely do not do not go on, basically do not, what the word, like, you know, match with, like, I don't know, multiple people at one time, because I know that one time I've known this girl, she did like 3 4 guys at the same time, and I asked her, how do you keep everybody, you know, like straight, you know? She told me at the end she couldn't do it. I said, well, yeah, so maybe you should have not started with so many people. But yeah, I think I do see there's a so I never tried before, so I couldn't really give any practical wisdom in this. But again, when you be honest, and then if this really what God wants you to, you know, God enables you to meet someone through that platform, you know, especially as Jeremy's mentioned earlier, it's a COVID time. It's, you know, it's really in the opportunity for us to meet people face to face is really limited. So yeah, just be honest, everything, just, and be always, and be discerning, pray through the process. And yeah, I believe that if God was for you to meet someone through this platform, it will happen. And again, once you meet this person, I would say, like I think Uncle Lester mentioned earlier, uh, yeah, or Gabe mentioned earlier, make it known that you are dating, you are, seeing this person more seriously, and if possible, bring him or her to our outdoor worship service and invite him or her to church and see what he or she says, right? And then we'll definitely want to meet this person if you ever bring him over to outdoor service. Make sure you let us know.
I have never done online dating, but the communities that I serve, I work deal with a lot of young people, men and women, and a couple of things that they advise me, because I told them I'm going to be on a panel. People is going to ask me about online dating, and a couple of things that end up with a good relationship is honest, but you don't have to spill out your gut. You want to be careful too, because this is online. You need to always be a little bit more careful with that. And number two is choose the app is right for you. There's a lot of apps that are out there. And then I think there's the latest one is Bumblebee. They just went on IPO. The last thing is what is the intention? I think in the app, it will have a category. What is your intention? Are you looking for a spouse? Or are you looking for meeting friends? Or, think about what is your intention. And always exercise a little bit caution.
Cool. I guess I want to be upfront and honest about, I guess, where I stand personally with online dating, because I wrote a blog post, I remember, like years ago, about why I don't do online dating and why I was against it. So I don't really want to, like, I guess because that's online, I don't want to, like, seem like I'm contradicting myself and what I say here. Um, so, I don't want to go to, I guess, just talking about online dating, I think there's some practical things that we can think about along this. And even though I wrote a whole article that was against it, doesn't mean that I don't think it's a sin. I think there's many reasons why people do it, and and many reasons are legitimate. And I think there's a lot of there's just an openness to it that we're allowed to explore as Christians. But I do think there's some wisdom to go about this. One aspect, Karen asked is understand the app that you're using. What is that medium? How is it being used generally by people, and how does it work? How do they actually match you up with people, and how, and what does it I guess, like, what does it teach us about dating? And what's their goal with that? And so just understand the app and understand how it's being used and what's it used for, and the people that are on there. And then the second thing is, yeah, as you meet people, be intentional. Like, because with these apps, you can, like Antias shared, like, you can end up meeting so many different people at one time. Try to be intentional with how you go about it. Be clear with your intentions. If you see this not going past the second date, then be clear about that. And so, because when things are being met up this way, sometimes it's really hard to be clear. And I think having that clarity will help you and will help the other person. And then a final practical advice, I don't know, I always give 3-point sermons. So the final practical advice is to indeed get people to know the person you end up meeting online, and also have the person's community get to know you. And so you can get to know their community as well. Because again, if it's online, you're most likely meeting someone who's not in your community, that not many people in your circles will know. And you'll want their opinions. You want their advice, because a lot of times when we're going on dating apps, we might get blinded by our own emotions. And so we want other people's advice, and we also want to see their community. What is their community like, and what do they think about that person? And so get to know people who know them well. And so that way you just kind of get a better, well-rounded foundation of your knowledge about that person.
Yeah, thank you all for those answers. I think they're especially helpful not just for online dating, but those themes of having purpose and intentionality and honesty, and of making sure, as always, that God is the focus. I mean, that's great for in-person dating too. It's just general principles that I think apply in both cases. Staying on that theme of sort of maybe more specific questions, we do have one that is a little bit more interesting. I think more of a complex or a difficult situation where there is someone who is already in a dating relationship, but there's someone else who has feelings for that person. So perhaps we'll let the ladies or the women on the panel answer for this one. Is there any steps of wisdom that you would advise in terms of either waiting to see if there will be an opportunity, or to simply move on and see if they can meet someone else?
I think for me, it's a no-brainer. Absolutely move on. Do not wait. God gave you a full life. He didn't ask you to pause. It's obedient things. If he's already dating someone, they may be going, it's a relationship they're developing. So one, why waste your time, to sit there and wait? There's a lot more things that, God is preparing for you. Just I don't think it's a great thing to wait. And when it really, unfortunately, if they really did break up and then you end up to be the girlfriend, you'll find that he's not as good as what you're thinking in your mind. There's a difference. So that's my opinion.
I love that, Karen, because when Ray read this question, he goes, "Of course, I'm not gonna wait, right?" What did you say? You said that if that's God's purpose for you or God's will for you to be with this guy, and then you'll eventually be together. But now, like the question states that if this person is currently in a relationship already, and of course that's committed relationship, and there's no way. If I were the girl, of course, even I had the interest. If I were interested in this brother, I would just have to walk away, but I know that the desire, or I should say, at the uh, admiration toward this person still pretty strong. So you have to really ask.
Guard your heart.
Oh yeah, Ray say guard your heart. Yeah, he read my mind. You have to really guard your heart and ask the Lord to take away that, that desire from your heart, because this person's already committed in the relationship. So, and then and the next step is just to definitely walk away and pray and ask the Lord to, bless you with another person, another brother that he'll bring to you, the potential brother bring to your life, and start this romantic relationship. So yeah. And I think that would be also helpful if the person who asks a question can also have a accountability partner, maybe another sister or another mentor that she can trust to share this desire in her heart, and ask the mentor to, or the other sister to pray with her and keep her accountable, and not let her feeling or thoughts go wild or go back to a waiting stage. So yeah.
Thanks, Allison. And Jeremy, being that I'm not one of the women in the group, I will share what I think Joyce put here. We'll see. I'm going to steal your screen again. And
Anytime.
it feels like one of these game shows, where you just play the answer, and the answer is, okay, here I go.
Okay, this is for the person who asked about whether she should wait for someone that she's romantically interested in, but he is already currently in a relationship, a dating relationship with someone else, whether she should wait around. I'm not sure what waiting around means, like just kind of like staying friends with him and not, I don't know, like maybe, like I hate to see, or are you thinking like if he breaks up that he might rebound with you, and like you're conveniently there as his friend? And I don't know, I think there's a lot of things wrong with it. I think just already hearing that out doesn't sound too healthy for you. So I suggest that you move on, because sometimes when your eyes are on someone else, there could be somebody else that actually is interested in you that you're not looking at. And may actually miss out. So I think if you recognize it right away that somebody is already involved with another person, and I mean, it would be different if he was just getting to know various people and taking them out just to get to know, and you might think that you could be one of them. Okay, well, I guess you could make the first move if he wasn't in a committed relationship and you were, interested in maybe getting to know him. And maybe this could give you a chance to know how he is as a person. But yeah, I think it sounds like he's already in a relationship, and so I would definitely steer away and just move on.
Well, thanks, Jeremy, for the question, and to the women who answered it. So.
Yes, thank you all for sharing it. Unanimous decision there. And yeah, thank you for that honesty and for that ability to speak honestly into this scenario. It's probably not easy to say and not easy to hear. So really appreciate that. Our time is sort of wrapping up. So we'll move on to sort of the next major topic, which is more so on marriage. So we'll start off again with more of a personal question, and we'll take probably like 2 or 3 responses. So whoever feels like they want to answer first. I think this is a good personal one. What made you decide to marry your current spouse, and was there any major character or characteristic in that person that you value, or was there maybe some special moment that you knew, that's the person you wanted to spend your whole life with? So if anyone is feeling inspired, romantically inspired in that way, take it away.
Yay, Joyce is
Okay.
back.
Yeah, Joyce has returned. So you don't get to hear, you get to hear her live now. So much for the tapes. But it was a.
Hello, everybody. Looks like you've been having fun.
So, Jeremy, was that the question you're asking about? How do you know that your spouse was the one that God wanted you to marry? Is that what you're addressing?
Yeah, I think that's the
or
question. Yeah.
Or oh yeah, I saw you had the question here about marriage, and I'll answer it that way. Here I'll throw out my ideas here. I don't know. It sometimes it seems like God just speaks to your heart that you just know. And to be honest, when up to the point until I met Joyce, I really did have that feeling that that this was the one. But with her, I really did feel it, that there was assurance that this is the woman that I would marry. And that's why actually I encouraged, or I really don't discourage you guys to get to know others of the opposite sex in your circle of friends or fellowships. Because sometimes, when one gets into that first and only relationship with all those feelings, they feel that this must be the one. It absolutely is. Well, it may not be God talking, but rather it's your string of lonely Friday nights that's talking. So that's why it's nice to get to know other people just a bit, so you understand that. But seriously, I would also look for confirmation from others. Meaning from ones that you trust, from ones you can be honest with, not from the ones who always say things like, you guys make such a great, cute couple. I hear so many girls say that, and I don't know what they mean by that. But anyway, you honestly want to look for people who really know you and can honestly say to you that, you're in a great relationship, or they don't know what you see in him or her, and they're not the type of person that says it after you break up, but they say it before, because, they're honest enough to see those things. And, I know many relatives and friends who sincerely have given good assurances, and they were spot on. And I hadn't had any, negative things about Joyce when we were dating. And so to me, that was confirmation. And she said, of course not, if you couldn't hear her. We've seen it in a lot of our friends and relatives. Joyce will even tell you about a cousin that she had in Taiwan that she saw her, with a guy and she said, you guys would be perfectly getting married. And she was spot on. They're happily married, have kids, and been married over 10 years now. And so I think that's my true answer is sincere confirmation from those around, from those who can trust you. I think that adds to really your heart of knowing who God wants you to marry and be with. So I think the answer, I think I answered it. I'm not sure if that's the right way of the question, but
You answered it.
yeah, anything to add since you're here? Or
Oh, I think I recorded myself.
Oh, you did?
Has it been weird watching me recorded?
Oh, I didn't know you did.
I had to do it like late last night, and I think I did one in the car. I don't know.
This one?
Oh, you really are gonna play it?
No, you could talk live.
Okay, well, yeah, you know what? Actually, you can play it.
Does it work better?
Because I thought of it.
You sound better in person.
I think live version would be much preferable. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, she'll let you talk live. Go ahead.
For me, I definitely followed my heart. You know, I mean, for those who, you know, are wondering what's your indicator, but more than just following your heart and knowing, you know, that feeling inside, I definitely saw how he treated his family. And for me, that was important because I knew that if I was to be his family someday, if I was to be his wife, that would be family. That's how I would be treated. So watching how he treated his siblings, his mom at the time, he's one of the most generous, kindest, caring person. And I still see it today, how he treats his family. So I already knew back then, you know, how he was. And so for you ladies, you know, watch the guy you're dating and how he treats his family, especially the women in his life, because you're going to be that woman in his life. And so definitely that was my like confirmation, knowing that, you know, he was going to be the right person to marry. And yeah, and we also had, you know, great chemistry, just great. You know, we sometimes, you know, we agreed on the important things, but, you know, we can agree to disagree on the things that are not, you know, the absolutes in our, you know, things that we felt strongly or passionate about. And we just got along really great too. So still today, for the most part. Alice, Ray.
So good to see you, Joyce, and hear, like, you know, from you, like, live person. That's awesome. You want to share first?
So the question is like, what made me want to marry Alice? I think one of the big key things also was closeness of family. In our first date, in which we were kind of blindly set up, I guess. The context is like there was like a group of 5 or 6 of us who were supposed to be going to a movie, and mysteriously everybody had something to do, and all of a sudden it was just Alice and me. So we were kind of set up in a way. But in that time when we did go out, we thought, okay, let's just go out anyway. So we went out, and when we were talking over coffee, we found out that we're both very close to our families. I'd be talking a lot about my cousins, how they're like my younger siblings. I'm an only child, so my cousins were like my substitute younger siblings. How we fought, how we played, and all that kind of stuff. How I talked about how my uncles were like my mentors, and my grandparents were always those like solid foundations of the family that I knew I could count on. My mom and dad were always making sure that I would always go on and on about how I loved all my family very much. And likewise, Alice said the same thing. I mean, she and her sister were really still are. They're very tight. They could talk about anything for hours, literally hours. I've heard the phone conversations, and it's like, but it's awesome to see how they're so close and everything like that, and how each of them, whether it's my sister-in-law or Alice, they're willing to do anything that's necessary to help the family, maintain family, a good family life. Yeah, I mean, I think that's basically what a lot of it, a lot of that was a big factor in why I thought Alice was the person for me.
Yeah, I think that again, what Joyce and Lester and Ray share is that you have the same value in your life. I think that's foremost important is that you share the same faith. I think that's one thing that I see that in Ray, that I know that I can always trust him because he he loves the Lord before anything else. When we first met each other, we were not as mature in our faith as we are now, and we were still pretty much like really, just really, pay attention to each other. But as we after we got married, and then as we went on in life, and I just see how his love for Jesus just grows like every single day, and then I see that even in the way that he treats me and treats the boys and even my family. Like he said, we both share a lot of values together, but the four most important value that we share is that we both love God together, and as well as each individual. I think that's very important, because when we value God first, and we are able to make decisions together, and even means that we have in our differences, we are still able to, really want to honor God as our first priority, to bring glory to Him, in our decision making. So that will help us to make decisions together, and be willing to, for me to submit to Him, to His decision, and for Him to support me and take my, ideas or suggestions into consideration. So I think that same value definitely is the key. Yeah.
Thank you for those answers. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So I agree. I agree to everything that Alice, Ray, Joyce, and Lester has shared. The decisions for me to marry Lawrence, part of it is he's a very good listener, and he cherished my ideas, and he gave me the confidence when I lack. There are two incidents that actually made me know that he's the one. One is I was always really ambitious. I think I should say I am still. And for my career or the things I want to champion for. So I'm always away from home. And I saw that he looked after my sister. My sister is actually visually impaired. She has a seeing eye dog. So there's a lot of limitation on what she can do. And how some people looking down on her because of a disability. And I saw how he always stood us for her. So she's working in Pentagon, but for her journey to end up working in the Pentagon, it was a very long one, and he was really a champion for her during that time. And then for me, there was an opportunity. I can work in the British Embassy for 6 months, and it was away from home. And I wasn't sure because it's like I was still a teenager. I think was only 20 or 19, and he told me just go for it. We were still dating at the time. And then when the time comes, when he has an opportunity to work, and we were separated long distance for like 2.5 years, I also supported him too. So I think one of the crucial thing is that person has to cherish you. What is your dream? What do you want to strive for? What is your growth? I think that's one of the things that I look for.
Nice. My answer is short. I don't really have a special moment. Um, it was it was the struggle of whether or not we should get married was more on my own heart, whether or not I was willing to commit to being married and be able to commit my life that way. So it really was me making that decision. And Sharon, who's now next to me, there's no red flags. There's nothing about her that turned me off. There was, everything. I enjoyed being with her. And she, I guess, like the only deal breaker in my head that question, but that we got past in the first date, which was, is she open to missions? Because I'm always open to see where God leads us, and so she's not open to it. Then what happens if God opens the door for me and she doesn't want to go? So but we got past that at first date. So it's more just me just wrestling with my own heart about committing. So I don't know if there was any kind of special moment that clicked in my head or emotionally. It was more just me just wrestling with my own heart of what do I want, and how much am I willing to commit.
Sharon, you can also respond if you'd like. No, okay. But yeah, thank you again for those answers. We are, we're right about 9:20. I think 9:30 is generally about when we wrap up. But we will try to get to at least 2 more questions, because I think we have 2 really good ones coming up. But if you do really need to leave, you are completely welcome to, but we'd urge you to stay just a little longer. I'll hear some more wisdom. So this will be probably one of the harder questions to answer. And yeah, you can take your time thinking through this, but it's, if you feel comfortable to share, what was the most difficult or challenging time in marriage? I think it can apply during dating too, if that's what you want to talk about. And how did you guys get through it? And any advice for those who are looking to get married, maybe whether they're dating or single.
I mean, I guess I have the shortest marriage. I have the least. I have very little to share from. Um, I think in terms of like our time being married, I think one of the challenges was, I think there's something just for you guys to think about as well, is that I like the current house, this condo that we live in now. Like I've been here for like the past 6 years, about six. So I was here when I was single, but for Sharon when she moved in, one of the challenging things was her adjustment period of moving out of her parents' house into this home, being married, new home, new address, and just there's so much things she had to change. While me, like I didn't have to change anything. Like all my credit card bills came here, all my like my driver license was already at this address. So like there's nothing that I had to really adjust. And I think one of the more difficult times was actually just me just trying to be patient with her adjustment period and learning. I didn't realize or it just wasn't it didn't click in my head until maybe about a month or two into our marriage, where I was like, oh, this is a really big adjustment, like really big life adjustment, and not just us getting married, but her moving out of her parents' home and coming here. And so it's just something just to even think about for you guys, especially if there's some single guys who live on their own and then they decide to get married and move into that same home. Like there's more of an adjustment for the girl in that aspect.
Actually, I think for us, I mean, we haven't really had any like major difficulties, but I think a challenge was, um, okay, let's see, we met and got married within a year, basically. So we met in January or February, and we married the following January. So I proposed on Alice's birthday, and we were only dating for 5 months. Long story short, the reason why it worked out that way is because my dad had terminal cancer. And so, Pastor Jackson said, I normally don't marry people this quickly, but if for you, I'll make an exception. So, but we started off our marriage with a terminally ill parent. And as much as Alice wanted me to be with her, she was challenged with sort of like managing our what humble abode we had and what regular home life we could have without me being present, because I was going to 3 or 4 times a week going to see my dad in the nursing home. It was rough on her, and she didn't complain, but I know it was hard for her. I know there were a couple of points of frustration from her, and from not strong, but I can feel some sadness there, but she didn't complain about it one bit. But that was a challenge, and really the only thing I think was that got us through it is that the Spirit was with us, that God gave her the understanding necessary because of her own closeness to her own family. She also realized that, you know what, I would do the same thing. Lo and behold, it was years later, the same thing comes up. Her father is also same thing, terminal cancer. I had no qualms about her spending more time with her dad. Yeah, because I already saw that she showed so much love for me, love of Christ, by letting me spend time with my dad. I'd be so heinously wrong to not show the same love back. Yep.
Yeah, it just I think that again, like what Ray shared, I think that it's just this is the love that we have for our family and for each other. I think that it goes a long way. I mean, a lot of you probably have experienced it, or yeah, or is this something that you would oh yeah, I think eventually you will have to also deal with in the future. And but when you have a spouse that is very understanding and also would empower you, you know, to love your family in such a way, it's really incredible. And again, that's what I talked about earlier, how God really grows us in our marriage. I think that he also grows each one of you, you know, in any relationship that you have now, at this moment. And yeah, just cherish the people in your life. I think that's very important. So we're grateful that God saw us through these difficulties, difficult, challenging times in our lives. Yeah.
You know, for ourselves, at least speaking for me, you know, there haven't been a whole lot of difficulties, and you know, but it's interesting what the fact what Ray and Alice were sharing about family, and you know, one thing, I had a mom that was very ill and on a ventilator and stuff, and Joyce knew that while we were dating the whole time, and she lived, you know, the first I don't know, 15 years after we got married, you know, still remained. But that was never an issue, thankfully, because Joyce and it was very accepting of that whole situation from the beginning. So in terms of time and conflict, that was always an understanding. So that worked out well. One area, though, that I think a challenge was you both come into the marriage with your own habits, and each of you believe yours is right. You know, that there's no way that yours could be wrong. But you know, it doesn't mean it's good or bad. They're different, and you have to be able to sincerely give up your habits and sincerely okay on certain things. I mean, it's funny what Gabe was sharing about his house. My brother got married in the same kind of situation where he moved into his wife's house because his wife had the family home, and you know, as a guy, he had clear mind what he wanted to change. And my first advice to him was, "You guys move," but you know, he didn't listen. Became their discussion point for many years. So you know, it is those types of things that you bring into it, of things that, you know, we've all been raised by different moms, so we're all a little different. And so for us too, I'd say it was, for me, it's the habits or things, you know, not thinking that my way was the only way or the right way, though I still believe most times it is the right way. But anyway, thoughts?
Well, for me, I'm like Gabe, just, you know, adjustment period after you get married. For me, I definitely was a very independent gal, and to have, you know, someone move in, even though we got the place together, I moved in first and I lived there. I've lived on my own for quite some time. For Lester, he moved out of his childhood home and moved out for the first time outside of his school, college life, into his own place with me. And so we definitely struggled the first year. And what compounded it more was we got pregnant 2 months into our marriage. So for me, I kind of had that feeling of, you know, I mourned my single life. Actually, I was like missing, you know, kind of just the freedom to go out and, you know, hang out with friends and do whatever I wanted to do, but to change my whole like attitude and mentality to committing to family and to my husband. So for Lester, it wasn't hard for him because he went from the family to another family, basically, you know. So for me, it was like, you know, just being, you know, learning to be flexible and learning to make the adjustments and appreciating all those changes that were happening to me. So yeah, we went from for me, it went dramatic from 1 to 3 in under a year, you know, to having in the same household, and one of them being, you know, very dependent on us. So yeah, I wish, you know, we had like a little extra time of, you know, like not having like children so quickly, but in a way we had dated like 6 years. Yeah, so we kind of feel like that was our, you know, our, even though we didn't live together, but it was like getting to know each other, and, you know, but not to the point of like living and understanding like how each other was like at home. But yeah, we learned really quickly. And so actually we're at the other end right now where our kids are grown, and now we're starting to experience kind of like, not yet empty nest yet, but we're gonna see that coming up pretty soon. I would say in the next 4 or 5 years for sure,
or less.
or less. So we do get to have that time. It's just at the other end of our marriage instead of at the beginning of marriage, where you can have that time to just spend together, learn about each other. But I was learning with a baby, and trying to figure him out and figure a baby out and all that stuff. So definitely that was my hardest, I think, part of adjusting, the, I think, challenging part of marriage for me. Yeah.
I think for us, we don't have like a specific incident that's very difficult. I think the one that one of the biggest one is choosing a home for us. I like to have a bigger house. He likes to have a smaller house because he didn't want to pay mortgage for that long. He just wanted to have maximum 10 years done. So it was a long conversation. Most of the time we're very open. Whatever I'm not happy about, it's probably written all over my face, and I also make sure that he know I'm not happy. And so it become a conversation for a few months. So finally we decide on a little hut, and we paid off the mortgage within our goal years. So you work things out. And I totally agree with Lester, about the habit. I mean, my habit is the right habit. I mean, you just have to learn it, right?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thank you all for your comments on that. We will go through one final question, and hopefully you guys can stick around for this one. This one did come from, or like more recently, so I think it's circling a little bit back to dating, and it is a question for the wives. What advice would you give to young women who feel like there is something wrong with them because compared to sisters at church or fellowship, they don't get asked out on dates and such? Maybe considering if they're not conventionally attractive. So any words of wisdom or advice for them?
Karen, what do you think? There's a BSF style. She knows what I'm talking about. What did you get started, Karen?
I think there's a couple of things with the question itself. For one, I don't know what is a conventionally attractive. I mean, I didn't know there's a standard or there's a box we're supposed to fit in. I definitely don't feel that. And I don't understand why you have to compare to sister at church, fellowship, or the rest of the world. You are uniquely created by God. There's no two person exactly the same. So I don't see all that as an issue. I just think that God gave you a deck of cards right now. He asking you to obey it, and it's different timing. And like what Ray and Alice was saying, when you give it to God, He does make it happen. You just have to let it go. Right now, you probably is holding on too hard. And honestly, whoever is asking this question, I think you're very attractive. Just don't think so low about yourself, because Jesus did die for you. You're precious.
I love that, Karen. I think that's just so encouraging to hear. You said that because yeah, I think that you really nailed the point where, what's our worth? I mean, if you just only gonna judge a person according to their appearance, or like you're saying, if this young lady asks a question, and then that would definitely need to have a one-on-one talk with this young lady, because each one of us is fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And we are, like you're saying, we are uniquely created, and each one of us has different, ways to express ourselves, and God uses with, even though he uses differently, but yet he made us all differently, but yet the sole purpose is for us to worship him and to obey him, all our life, and bring him glory. So I think that the advice that I think that I will give to these young women, that first of all, when you feel like that, you ask yourself the question, where do I place my value, my self-worth on, and if I truly believe that I'm created by God and this is who I am, and God has made me the way that He sees that I'm beautiful. And so that's where my confidence come from, in Christ, but not in my appearance, and I believe that for any young woman, that when you have that understanding and belief that God has made you and Christ has died for you, and that you are truly worth of everything, because Christ died for you with his pay for your life with his very own, and that you would definitely live this life, to glorify him, and have the confidence that you can do that, to glorify him in the way that he made you. So yeah, you're beautiful. We're all beautiful. Yeah.
I think they answered very well. Or I hope that encourages young women. For me, I don't think this is really answering the question, but for me, I had my self-worth because I grew up in a non-Christian home, and so I always looked at other families who actually went to church together, and you know they seemed like they were, to me, like chosen by God to be in their family, and I felt like the outsider actually, and I actually started to think and doubt myself, like I was, just worthy to belong, and then once I realized, like, it was actually all along my choice to choose God, in my life, not like God had already chosen us, but it was me to make that decision, and it took me a while to realize that. And I think it's the shift of thinking. And I agree with Alice, it's just, you should first focus on where's your self-worth, where are you worthy from? And if you know it's from God, then you don't focus on how other women or other young men, and how they choose to judge us, So first, being finding self-love and self-worth, that is where you should be putting your emphasis on. And then, that's the most beautiful and most attractive, actually, when you begin to show, you feel it's inside, that spirit, and then it just glows. And then I think when you open your eyes to being aware of others around you and making them feel special and important, it just it turns around. Instead of them trying to make you feel special and make you feel, it's about you. And that's why God put us on, this world, is to love others, and so I think if you begin first the love out, then it just will just naturally come back to you. So that's kind of general, but I hope that helps encourage you.
Yeah, thank you. I love just the immediate response of, seeking to encourage, seeking to build up. And yeah, that's what the church is all about. I think that's an answer that's helpful for men too, even if they don't struggle as much with feeling beautiful.
Yeah, no, this
Hey, even for guys, we still check ourselves out in the mirror sometimes. We'll have to be honest about that. So it is an important question.
Yeah, may I add a comment? Just a quick comment. So I think that for all the young men and young women out there, I just want to encourage you. I think that this is a question, as Jeremy will put that, you put it very well, that even for men also struggle with this, with this, I guess, identity in this way, right? How to be more attractive and why other people are more attractive than I am. But I think the bottom line is that when you are looking for someone, you will want to really look at their hearts, look at their personality, look at who they are inside, rather than just appearance. Yes, appearance is important. Okay, you have to have that physical attraction before you even want to get to know that brother or sister better, in the sense. But what's important is that build your inside beauty, that, like Auntie Joy said earlier, even Auntie Karen said, that is what your worth is at, is where when you have that spirit inside of you, and that you will just glow, and that just make you even more beautiful than, yeah, than you could ever imagine. So I think that I just encourage you all, you know, inside beauty and outside appearance go hand in hand, but definitely inside beauty comes first. If you ever get confused, come talk to the ladies. I mean Karen, Joyce, and myself.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for the night. Thank you for staying, the extra 10 or so minutes. If you were able to stay, I hope that it was helpful and as much of a blessing for you all as it was for me. Yeah, let's give it up for the mentors on our panel. As Calvin always says, if you know how to use them emojis, you can use them. Or you can just write your own words of encouragement.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Jeremy, for emceeing for us as well, and doing all that. And so yeah, it's a really great help. I can go and close us with a word before everyone signs off. But yeah, I want to say thank you for all the mentors for signing on and answering these questions. And there are a lot more questions. I know we couldn't get to all of them. And so there's some question that you did right and you really wanted to be answered. You now know the faces of the mentors here. Feel free to reach out to them and ask them your question. They'll love to help you and be able to walk with you. If there's anything that you are struggling with, and we did answer some questions today that did talk about some difficulties and pains that you guys might be going through. Again, we're all here to help you. We all want to be able to walk with you. That's why they're here in IT every Thursday with us. They're here for you. And so reach out to them. If you need to know their contacts, let me know, let Calvin know. We'll be glad to give you their emails and things like that. And so thank you everyone for being here. Let me go and just say a word of prayer to kind of close us, and I guess I'll be our night. So let's pray. Father, I thank you for this time that we will gather here and be able to just engage with these questions, Lord. And Lord, we thank you for these questions because they are indicative of what people are going through. And Lord, we just want to honor you. We want to honor you with our walks. We want to honor you in our struggles. We want to honor you in our in the top of the mountains and at the lowest in the valleys. Lord, we want to give our lives to you, but to do that, and especially with this topic of dating and relationships and marriage, it can be very difficult. And so I pray, Lord, that you continue then to walk with us, to give us wisdom, to give us comfort, to give us peace. And that, Lord, we will continue to have you in our sights, and that Christ will be our final treasure. So I pray, Lord, that you would then encourage all of us here. I thank you, God, for just the church of that's full of different wisdom and different generations of different people at different maturity levels, at different life stages. God, the church is so diverse and yet so unified. And I pray, Lord, that through the church, your grace will be shown, and that people, Lord, will be indeed loved and valued, and that, Lord, all of us will continue just to worship you together. And so, Lord, I thank you for everyone here. I thank you for this night. And I pray, God, that we will continue then to walk closely with Christ. I pray all this in your holy and precious name. Amen.